Ride to Hell Retribution is a video game developed by Eutechnyx Limited and published by Deep Silver for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC in 2013.
But our story doesn't start in 2013. Let's roll back the clock a few years to when the game was first announced in 2008.
Back then, IGN was one of the first outlets to report on the project, which was going by the title of Ride to Hell.
According to the game's trailer and the IGN interview, the project was set to take place in the 1960s, featuring a non-linear story and a huge open world to traverse.
The game was originally conceived to feature 95 square kilometers of explorable world. That's bigger than Grand Theft Auto 5's map. That's pretty big.
In this spread-out big bad world, it would focus on bikers and the 60s counterculture movement, taking inspiration from classic films like Easy Rider.
They also promised an enormously customizable bike, over 300 licensed songs from the 60s, expandable gang territory, and tons of different vehicles to ride.
The game was slated for a 2009 release, but unfortunately that window came and went with no word on a street date. This led many to believe that Ride to Hell was silently being scrapped.
But it wasn't. And although the game was showcased every so often, a firm release date was nowhere in sight for a long while.
That is, until about 5 years after its initial reveal, when we got a brand new trailer.
This trailer announced a June 2013 release, and that wasn't the only news. Turns out the game was no longer called Ride to Hell, it was now Ride to Hell Retribution. We also got a glimpse of main character Jake Conway single-handedly tearing up a bar.
This guy seems like a bad enough dude.
In a world where guys without machetes suddenly have machetes, and pole dancers materialize submachine guns from burlap sacks, you gotta be.
But hold on, this is just a pre-rendered cinematic trailer. How does the final game actually look and play? Did the devs manage to deliver on the many promises they made pre-release?
Just one way to find out.
Let's rev up the 360 disk drive and motor down the nearest mountain pass with Ride to Hell Retribution.
The game begins with our protagonist riding his bike on the highway.
Apparently this wasn't exciting enough for the intro because we immediately jumped to the same character working a mounted turret.
We're not sure why we've been jumped to this moment without explanation. Maybe it's some kind of tutorial?
I'm as lost as you are, but we mow down enemies anyway. At least, I hope they're enemies. At this point, the only world building we've had is right boot on pedal.
Eat lead, suckers! Ooh! Oh, are we back on the highway now? Wait, I'm confused. How did we get here?
Whoa, it happened again. Where are we? Who are you? Why are we fighting?
Another jump cut. Wow, it happened so fast that the black Twizzlers on this guy's shirt are having a fit.
You think this is it? That I'm the last one?
Holy shit! Black licorice. You either love it or...
Back to the bike. Our character seems to have veered off the road during his last manic episode.
You know, my pappy always said it's times like these that you need to just stop everything you're doing, take a couple deep breaths, and
do a sick jump over a helicopter!
Title card! Well, that was a very confusing and bizarre minute and a half? Luckily, we finally get a nugget of the game's plot from a loading screen.
I mean, where else could you have put about a minute and a half of backstory or context?
Our protagonist, Jake, is trying to connect with his brother Mikey and Uncle Mac after serving in the Vietnam War.
Post-load screen, we jump back in time 10 days. Jake seems to be getting discharged from the military.
Yep, looks like Jakey Boy's all ready to get back to humdrum civilian life.
Jake, on your feet. It's time.
No need to keep him around a bit longer to decompress.
Jake meets up with his family. His brother Mikey's raring to get out and see some local bands with Jake. But Mac hates the idea, saying it's not safe in their neck of the woods and that people get killed over nothing.
Upset, Mikey takes off with Mac's bike, who now charges us with bringing him back safely.
This brings us to the game's first actual non-tutorial gameplay, chasing down Mikey.
And with it, we get problems.
This section is super dark. So dark that you can barely make out Jake. He ends up looking like a floating silhouette directly in front of the screen.
He's unlit even when he drives around a light source, like he's an untextured model, like a shadow.
Steering feels floaty, easily overshooting the direction you want to point in. This means you'll be meeting obstacles head on.
When you collide with something, it screws up the speed and control of your bike in completely unrealistic ways. And if you hit something in a way that the game can't can't properly register, it resets your position. Sometimes this can lead to a game over. Other times, it's just completely disorienting.
So, putting it bluntly, flowing through the streets in Ride to Hell is a bad time. We're not exactly off to a great start in a game focused entirely on motorcycle culture.
We catch up to Mikey and have a brotherly chat on the side of the road. Mikey talks about a girl he might like and... Wait. Does that poster say Kenneby for president? Ah, yes. John F. Solid Kenneby, 35th President of the United States and Master of Tactical Espionage.
Anyway, Jake goes to a restaurant across the street to grab some grub. When he does, Mikey's accosted by a gang. Their weapon of choice, terrible facial animations and awkward silences.
You know how to move, Tony.
Jake tries to deflate the situation when a gang member named Colt recognizes Mikey's vest. Colt looks familiar.
Black licorice.
Well, we know this guy's gonna die.
Colt recognizes Mikey's vest, and the game suddenly tosses the two brothers on a motorbike without warning. Guess we're fleeing now.
Clearly, we're missing a scene here. Was there some kind of altercation with the awkward silence quartet? Did Mikey leave Mac's bike on the street? Why are the brothers on a single motorcycle now?
I don't know, but Jake thinks the guys they're running from are part of a gang called the Devil's Hand. They do not like Mikey's biker vest, which was passed down from the brothers' deceased father.
You know what I don't like? This motorcycle gameplay. Throughout your time with Ride to Hell, all the bike sequences control about as terribly as the first. The only difference is that every once in a while, slightly new mechanics are added, which typically make things worse.
For example, not only do you need to drive and avoid objects here, but you need to fight off rival bikers using QuickTime inputs.
Let's make this clear up front. The QuickTime sequences are totally broken.
Like here, we didn't even push the button it asked us to push, and it didn't matter. The enemy just shrugged, drove off, and blew themselves up.
I don't know how to ride a motorbike. Ah!
Eventually, we make it through this intense action sequence by not pressing a single attack button. And suddenly, Jake and Mikey are surrounded.
Again, Colt asks about Mikey's vest.
As I was asking before, we want to know where the boy here got his cut from. Would be nice to know who you are, too.
It's nobody's. It's just a jacket.
Look, lad, this is the part where you beg for his life. You understand?
He's just a kid.
There was a lot of blood when that Colt guy bashed in your brother's face, Jake. Think maybe you could, show a little bit more compassion?
He's just a kid.
Mikey tells the crew that the vest belonged to his dad, and the gang keep pressing him to give them a name. If only there was some way to figure out the vest's previous owner with regular old perception.
Mikey lets the obvious cat out of the never-sealed bag and reveals that his and Jake's father was an infamous biker named Toledo Conway. This doesn't go well.
What happens next doesn't really make a bunch of sense.
We hear an explosion and see bursts from an assault rifle. We assume it's being pointed at Jake. All of this in dramatic black and white. Well, guess Jake's dead.
But nope, we quickly flash to color in the same location. Jake now has his dad's vest on.
This scene is layered over with the ghostly voice of Uncle Mac.
You're gonna wind up dead, boy. You ain't even healed from that bullet you took.
Well, it's nothing, Mac. Mikey's gone. And I'm gonna hunt down every one of those animals.
Jake gets on his bike and drives off for Retribution. Get it? It's the name of the...
But I'm confused. How did Jake get away from the Devil's Hand? Didn't they just point blank shoot him with an assault rifle? Was he left for dead but recovered? How much time has passed?
Keep these questions in mind, folks. We'll be getting back to them.
Off seeking retribution, Jake is once again riding his dumb bike. Here, we get to learn a new driving mechanic, power sliding.
The idea is that there'll be times where an obstacle will block your path. When that happens, you press Y to make Jake slide under conveniently placed gaps so that you can keep on motoring.
Jake power slides like this.
If that looks stupid, it's because it's stupid.
Poor hit detection and terrible bike controls ruin whatever fun this move was supposed to ignite. Your bike consistently moves forward with no way to stop. You can't even turn. If you bump into an object, the game fades to black and places you back on the road.
Which is really annoying. You can't help but collide with objects because of the way your bike moves, meaning that you will constantly have your vehicle's position reset over and over.
At this point, I'd say Jake should leave the terrible controlling bike behind and try seeking revenge on foot. But guess what? The hand-to-hand combat in this game is somehow worse.
During the early sections of Ride to Hell, you're gonna run into fights with tons of random cronies. They somehow made fights incredibly mundane here. Keep tapping the attack button, watching Jake snap and slide around until it's over.
Throughout these bouts, you'll meet characters that Jake questions to find those responsible for Mikey's death. And once he's done questioning them, he brutally murders them every single time.
Eventually, Jake's pointed to San Alfonso, a city where he needs to find someone named Carlos so that he can continue his trail of destruction. After all the linearity the game's offered so far, does this mean we finally get a taste of that amazing open-world gameplay we were promised back in 2008?
No! To our horror, we discovered that once you get to the big city, you can't actually go anywhere you want. If you move somewhere that the game considers out of bounds, guess what happens? Your position is reset, just like when you're on your freaking motorcycle.
An open world experience designed with a map that was supposed to be one of the largest ever? Well, at some point in development, that got cut.
Each level is linear. You move from the start of a location to the end. There is virtually no exploration at all.
You just move on forward until you have to bust some heads and then keep moving forward.
But once in a while, you come across special events.
Like this guy screaming at a lady in a parking lot. Charming.
The moment the guy gets knocked out, this happens. Great. Did the game crash?
Oh, no, it didn't.
Okay.
Are they?
It can't be. Everyone involved in this adult-themed event is fully clothed.
Pants.
Come on, you two, calm down. You're gonna wear out the crotch on your Levi's.
What is this room? Are we in a hotel now?
Probably not. Do hotels have random personal pictures of people in them?
Mom?
This looks stupid, and it is stupid.
Almost as quickly as it happened, the game snaps back to the parking lot and the girl is nowhere in sight. Poor gal's a pile of friction dust on a duvet somewhere.
Was that story related? Did Jake know this person? Why did they instantly agree to teleport to some skeezy room to play pants on slip and slide?
The answer to these questions is utterly insulting.
Yeah, you're gonna run into not just one, but multiple women, sometimes groups of women, that are activated after completing a task like this.
And instantaneously, you'll be transported to one of these cutscenes. Apparently, Jake likes his companions like the creators of Ride to Hell like their motorcycle games. Completely devoid of pleasure.
So, why is this happening? Well, you know good old video game health and ammo pickups, usually appearing as a first aid kit or stack of ammo? Well, folks, you're looking at them. In Ride to Hell Retribution, the women Jake woos without taking off his shoes are ammo and health crates.
Not making this up.
It's written directly into the tutorial section of the game.
After every raunchy scene, you're transported back to gameplay with full health and ammo.
This, by the way, is pointless, because enemies constantly drop ammo and your health replenishes over time.
The developers likely wanted these scenes to convey the adult nature of the game. And what's more adult than body boinking?
Yeah, but they clearly had no idea what they were doing. It's like someone walked into the game director's office and asked, how exactly should we implement this into the game? After our initial parking lot pickup, Jake enters another biking sequence. This time, they've introduced switchable blunt weapons.
Great. Unfortunately, they forgot to animate them being used properly.
That's it, Jake. Mime exactly how you're gonna beat that guy up. Haha, showed him.
Regardless of who you pummel on bike, when they tumble off, the bike always flies off at top speed and blows up. Ooh, like fireworks.
You chase one of the main rival bikers down, but he drives into a brewery and locks himself inside. Obviously flustered and brain dead from monotonous gameplay, Jake asks a nearby mechanic for help instead of easily breaking his way into the building.
The mechanic says her deadbeat ex-husband has the keys to the brewery, so you ride with her to find him, repeating the exact same gameplay you just crawled out from.
You find her ex-husband?
Who the f you supposed to be?
You beat up her ex-husband.
What the hell are you looking?
The mechanic shows her appreciation by aggressively jumping on Jake, clearly frustrated by her inability to understand how overalls work.
Before you head back to the brewery, Mac calls and says you need guns. You find a guy who sells guns, says he won't sell guns to just anyone. Now you get a training sequence to prove you can use guns.
These side quests really feel like remnants of what the open world version of Ride to Hell was supposed to be. Unfortunately, where some of these events feel like they should be optional off the beaten path missions, you have to linearly complete everything.
This game screams incomplete experience stapled together. We've got animations that seem to make sense at first, but clearly don't. Like this gentleman, who we assume is supposed to be wiping a gun down with a cloth. Instead, he's just hovering his bare hand above the gun and moving it around.
Maybe he's casting a spell.
Even when it comes to general audio, things seem lacking or incomplete. Like these two awkwardly motioning in front of each other, not speaking a word.
Maybe they both cast silent spells on one another.
So, okay, we're finally able to get in the brewery and we have a gun. That should make combat sequences a breeze to finish, right?
Nope.
It's mystifying that a game like this can be so broken on so many levels. Even the gunplay's borked.
Apparently people in this universe are mostly bulletproof.
Unless you perform a perfect headshot,
Yeah, usually. Doesn't always work.
you might choose to go back to hand-to-hand combat every so often to break up the monotony. And if you do, you'll eventually power up Jake enough that he will have a special move triggered by a quick time sequence.
This will take out your adversary, sure, but it also adds more time to each encounter.
It's strange. This game feels like it goes out of its way to test your patience.
And just when you think they couldn't make this game any longer, a Jason Voorhees knockoff enters, complete with hockey mask, who will not go down.
Headshots don't work here. No, the plastic's almost immune. Convenient. While shooting him directly in the face, he will continue to attack you like nothing's happening.
The first time you meet him, oh, you'll die. You can bet on it. He's unceremoniously tossed at you without warning. You'll accidentally treat him like a regular thug and get your lights knocked out super quick.
And when that happens, you'll respawn way off from where you were. Oh, and all the enemies you fought up until that point respawned, ready for another go.
I'd rather chew decades-old expired milk than keep playing this game.
But push forward we must. We went through the entire building taking on more enemies and more Jasons and, well, the guy we were chasing ran away.
He what? He ran away? That whole battle through a massive factory? And he just ran away?
Yep. Then Jake meets up with his Uncle Mac, who hasn't quite finished rendering in.
But when he does, Ride to Hell morphs into another game genre.
On-rails shooter!
While Mac handles driving, Jake has to take out moving targets. And you better do it quickly, otherwise Mac will get shot and, well...
Eventually, we catch up to the jerk we've been chasing for what feels like decades and finally take him out. We can only hope the game is out of surprises for us.
That's a false hope. Who are we kidding?
At this point, we're a couple hours into Ride to Hell, and we've entered what can only be described as a hub world.
This place is called Dead End, and it really lives up to the name. It's Jake's hometown.
It kind of feels like a dump. You can't venture too far because, as you'd guess, the game resets your position if you do.
There are 2 stores here that you can shop in. One that buys drugs from Jake, which are looted from enemies, and one that sells weapons.
There's no complexity in selling your illicit substances. You basically just sell everything you got. But at the gun shop, things feel a little less straightforward.
See, we think you were supposed to slowly progress and buy more powerful equipment in the game's original design. But there are weapons pre-unlocked, like the Model 9 here, which has higher ratings than the other guns you have yet to buy. Why would you purchase something worse than what you already have for free?
The confusing design decisions know no bounds. And hey, most confusing of all, where are all the other things we were promised while this game was being showcased? Fine, we don't don't have a huge open world to explore, but where's the soundtrack made up of hundreds of songs from the 60s? Where's the expandable gang territory? Where are the abundance of vehicles we could drive? Did they deliver on anything they promised?
Sure they did.
What? Really?
Yeah, bike customization. Take your wild hog and modify away. Change wheels, colors, seats, handles. You've got tons of options with items that unlock as you progress through the game.
These cosmetics don't modify gameplay, but at least you can ride your hot pink rainbow printed bike to your heart's content.
While we could praise this feature for its well laid out presentation and ease of use,
That gets thrown out the window almost immediately.
while customizing, we suffered multiple crashes on the Xbox 360 that forced us to hard reset the console.
Seems that this one decent feature of Ride to Hell should be avoided at all costs, unless you want to risk damaging your game save or potentially your console.
If your console and your brain have survived this far, then Jake joins a fight club. One of the people who killed his bro happens to be involved here. Time to tussle. Let's kick it!
Kick, 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 kick.
Kick.
Wow, is he gonna stop anytime soon?
No, doesn't look like it.
Well, all the fights can't be like this, right?
Ugh.
Well, looky here. This is the guy who slit Mikey's throat. His name's Meat Hook, and he loves to talk.
Which one of you put money on this? You really think he's got a chance? Against me? This terrified little thing that you see before you is nothing.
Eventually, Jake kicks Meat Hook down for good. He starts to question him, but someone rushes up and finishes him off before Jake gets answers.
The story continues, with Jake back on his motorcycle.
Oh, good! Looks like he's being rendered on a PS1.
Kinda looks more like an N64. By this point, the plot shifts to Jake pestering nobodies, who always refuse to help him unless he does something for them first.
Gameplay filler. Isn't this fun?
Here, Jake's tasked with delivering a package on his bike when
What?
we restart the level to try it again, and
I just... You're telling me they had a level flaw in the game that was this obvious and they didn't fix it?
incredible! How can you miss this? The bike literally falls through the level every time!
To get this blundering mess of code and hot garbage to run properly, we figured out what you need to do.
Drive up to the massive hole in the road, slow down, and wait. Wait for the level to load.
Sweet merciful crap. We shouldn't need to explain what loading screens are for, right? Okay then, here. This is what loading screens are for. To load the thing you will be interacting with.
If this game was a pizza, it would have been delivered as a raw dough in a wet sock.
Back to more bike action. Now we can use terrible gun mechanics while we use terrible driving mechanics. And in slow motion.
The game gets locked in the shooting mode. You can't speed up, and the slow motion is permanent until you take out all your targets.
This would be fine if the people you were shooting at weren't the size of ants in the distance.
But the vehicular nuttiness doesn't stop there, folks.
Jake needs to get into some special secret property on the other side of this electric fence.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Don't touch the fence.
Jake decides to walk across the street to politely borrow a tanker.
Just kidding. Jake murders innocent truckers and steals their ride. Hero of the story, everyone.
Well, clearly he's stolen the truck to bash through the electric fence. Quick and easy.
Not quite.
Oh?
Jake drives the truck through the roads, destroying countless police barriers, murdering legions of people on the street. Eventually, he crashes the truck into an electric power dam. He then brutally slaughters more innocent bystanders working at the dam, pulls out a piece, and shoots the truck's attached gas tank, which makes the entire complex explode. This likely incinerates any other living thing in the vicinity while he dives into a river unscathed.
Is Jake the bad guy?
Yes, Jake is the f***ing bad guy. But hey, now we can hop over the freshly unelectrified fence.
Who wrote this? Who laid all this out and convinced a team of game designers that yes, this is probably his best course of action in this given scenario?
We're not gonna bore you with too many details, but rest assured, Jake does more biking, more beating, more fully clothed
We grind, kick, and scream our way through this awful heap. Eventually, we make it to Colt.
Yes, Colt, the guy who killed... Wait. No, he didn't kill Mikey. That was Meat Hook, and he got the stab already. Do we really need to keep retributioning?
Never mind. It has been foretold by the terribly jumpy prophetic intro that we would cross paths once more.
Ah, but the sequence can play out a bit differently than what we saw in the beginning.
For example, after Jake shoots one leg, we can take our time before shooting the other one.
Then you can shoot him in the...
Twizzler.
And then the finisher. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Just do it already!
Bing, bang.
Done! Yes! Wait, I just remembered something. Rewind.
All of this happened in 10 days.
Jake returned from Vietnam. Mikey was offed. Jake healed from being shot point blank with an assault rifle. Jake tracked down and pulverized every member of the Devil's Hand responsible for Mikey's death. And he did all that in 10 days?
It took us more than 10 days to make this video.
This is craziness. Nothing about this story makes any sense in the Slade. Oh, wait. Why aren't the credits rolling?
Do you think this is it? I'm the last one.
Because the game isn't over.
What?
This is the midpoint of the game. We've only witnessed half of what Ride to Hell has to offer.
Great. It's revealed that the people who killed Mikey were actually part of a much larger gang. The gang who killed Jake and Mikey's father. And the head of that gang put out a kill order on their entire family.
So now Jake has to hunt more people down. Joy.
Besides super boring story beats, the gameplay doesn't expand with many new ideas.
And every gameplay issue from the first half is right here in the second half.
Plus, you get to throw knives.
But a lot of good throwing knives will do when the Crystal Lake dumbass returns. You can toss plenty of knives in his head, and he's just cool with it.
Combat while riding is just as irritating as ever. In this part, we're supposed to shoot a guy named Greasy Steve off a bike. Simple, right?
But it's not. It takes several clips of ammunition with perfect hits during slow motion to actually take him out. Look at this.
The guy would be a block of Swiss cheese by now. He's leaking so much bodily fluid that he looks like an exploded Hot Pocket. There's no way he's alive after all this.
Problems like the soldiers miming to each other from earlier on? Well, they pop up again. This time with the exact same model.
The one on the left doesn't seem to be casting a shadow.
But despite all of what we've seen, closer to the end of the game, they attempt to throw a little more gameplay variation into the mix, like threatening people with a gun. And with this, we get what should have been a 5-minute gameplay sequence that was stretched out and took us over an hour to finish.
This fellow in the white tank top, we need to question him. So we get to use the threaten mechanic. But first, he runs away.
If he runs away too fast, it's game over, so you need to keep running after him.
Good luck though, as you encounter a ton of random enemies. And no, you can't just run past them. You need to take them out to continue forward. All the while, you lose precious time.
All of this could be a fun challenge, but the game's threaten mechanic? It's busted.
You aim. Bullseye right in this guy's face, and he won't stop at all.
Yeah, that red circle in the middle of the screen, it needs to fill up completely. Otherwise, he's not threatened enough.
And every time you move around, even slightly, the circle resets, giving him time to dash away.
And hey, getting frustrated? Want to shoot him and get this over with like we did? Go ahead. The game treats this as a fail state. Time to restart from the top.
We're so sick of these loops of gameplay that take forever to complete and have you doing the same thing over and over. Give us something we've never seen before.
Oh, Jesus, what?
So many glitches.
Glitch.
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 This game is so sloppy, even the interactive cutscenes are a mess of glitches.
Think he's probably dead now, buddy.
You don't know the half of it.
We love this part where Jake's eyes adjust through the glitch, as if he's come to the horrific realization that he may very well be the villain here.
Hey, look, bad boy Jake is back on his bike again, delivering something else to... who cares? Hopefully the level will actually load in this time.
Yeah, but no.
How? How does this keep happening? Just a few years before this game came out, we got The Lost and Damned, an expansion to Grand Theft Auto 4. It was all about a biker gang, and it doesn't have any of the aggravating issues we're constantly seeing in Ride to Hell. Oh, and it's open world!
While there were some minor bugs with The Lost and Damned, those were eventually patched out. What you're seeing here with Ride to Hell, it never got fixed.
You'd probably think the team behind Retribution just put their hands in the air and gave up post-release.
But they didn't. They released follow-up DLC.
Oh, come on. Who would be stupid enough to give them more money for more of this crap circus? No way. There's no way we're doing this. There's no possible way. I'm gonna sit here and play through
Cook's Mad Recipe is a story extension DLC that adds about an hour and a half of extra gameplay to Ride to Hell Retribution.
Jake needs to stop a stolen atom bomb from being detonated by one of the gang members who killed his dad. Oh, how does a story this grand line up with the rest of the game?
It actually adds nothing to the game you haven't already had the displeasure of experiencing. Besides a near useless sniper rifle in the weapons roster with the worst crosshair I've ever seen in a game.
Believe it or not, this Cook's Mad Recipe DLC is actually more unstable than the base game.
Are we upside down?
Yes, we are. Your controls are completely inverted here, making it impossible to do much of anything. And we believe so few people actually played this trash heap that virtually nobody experienced this firsthand. That must make us special.
DLC over. Back to the main game.
We burned through everything. Mac gets killed, Mikey's supposed girlfriend, Ellie, shows up, and she apparently hates her father. Turns out she is Caesar's daughter.
Who is Caesar? Oh, just the dude who killed Jake's dad and put out that hit on the whole family.
We meet him almost 30 minutes before the game's over. We have no connection with this person. Nothing.
This brings us to the very end of the game. Ellie is on Jake's bike and the two of them are fighting off Caesar.
Jake is suddenly wearing sunglasses when he wasn't wearing them a moment earlier.
He looks cool. We begin a final QuickTime event that needs to be seen to be believed.
Jake jumps from his motorcycle to Caesar's, leaving Ellie to grab onto the handles to keep from crashing.
While standing on the front of Caesar's bike, he starts beating the crap out of him.
Caesar, by the way, is still driving the bike.
Then Jake starts to gouge his eyes out.
Now, nobody is holding the handlebars. Who's driving this thing?
It takes an obscenely long time for Jake to poke out this guy's peepers, but once he's done, he jumps back onto his bike, causing a now blinded Caesar to crash through a fence and fall off a cliff.
Jake takes one look down at Caesar, who's now covered in gasoline from his damaged vehicle, and says,
It's over. We did it, Mikey.
"We did it, Mikey? Mikey? Jake, the guy killed your entire family. Everyone, your mom, dad, your brother, and even Uncle Mac. But this is just for Mikey?"
Jake's taste for retribution is satisfied for Mikey and nobody else.
And then the credits roll. Our huge, busted biker adventure has finally come to a close.
Actually, when the credits are over, a loading screen locks up the game, forcing you to hard restart the console.
If you're interested in a game about bikers and bike culture, you can find plenty that tell far better stories than this. Many with better gameplay, all way more stable.
Ride to Hell Retribution is a case study for how not to release or maintain a game.
It's not just terrible gameplay, it's terrible on every single front. A bizarre, confusing odyssey of glitches, bugs, and mega super neuroticism. Playing this experience is like embarking on your own personal ride to hell. Likely, we're underselling it when we say
It's just bad.